But the man's a visionary. And it's saying, I mean, like in many ways is the modern godfather of shonen battle anime and also the modern godfather of JRPG. I mean, he didn't write Dragon Quest, but still the aesthetic shape of Dragon Quest. Him.
Sam, would you say that Akira Toriyama is the undisputed king of shonen anime?
You know what?
Bring it back.
You could make a very strong argument that Akira Toriyama is the undisputed king of modern Japanese anime.
I don't think you've said that for a year.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
We shat on you way too much.
It's been a while. So they pull out an undisputed king. Well, hello, and welcome back to Gateway to Anime. How are you all? What's going on? We are, of course, the podcast where we try and throw open the gate to all fans, whether you be old, new, returning. We want to try and break down anime for those who might be interested, or for those who've maybe gone away and want to come back, or for those of you who live and breathe it like we do and just want to talk about it. We're here to talk about anime. Charlie, how are you?
I'm good. Happy to be back in the studio with some fresh faces, but also with Graeme. How are you, Graeme?
I want to throw in something like I'm ready to go Super Saiyan or
Here
just start
it
a
is.
KO Ken or I don't know.
Charge your Genki Dama.
Yeah.
It's all happening. And so here we have a very good friend of the podcast joining us after a while. We've been trying to line this up for a while. Just returned from Japan itself as well. And
Got a shirt.
Yes, an excellent shirt. And this is, of course, Kieran Clancy-Lowe. Kieran, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, long-time listener, first-time caller. Great to be here.
It's good to have you.
Yeah, and that's true. Well, thank you so much. I got a call out last time on one of the previous episodes while I was in Japan.
Yeah, it
And
starts
that was really lovely because I was listening to it. I was like, that's me. That's me.
Just grabbing
talking about
Japanese
me.
people
They're
and
about me.
shaking them.
But it's in my headphones, so I can't share it with anyone.
Yeah.
I just internalize that. It's me. It's finally me.
Very exciting. Well, today we are talking about what really is, outside of Pokemon, the biggest gateway anime in the West to Australians at least, and I would say Americans, English. We got a representative from the UK right here. You represent them all, Graeme.
Old Britannia.
Old Britannia.
What are you trying to say?
Represented on this podcast.
Yeah, okay.
But no, of course, we're talking about Dragon Ball Z. Now, this is something we haven't really talked about that much before. We obviously mention it all the time, but it's sort of like one of those things like where we just kind of breeze past it because it's just that, it's the gateway. It's, it was everyone's gateway. You know what I mean? But we really need to give it some actual love. It needs to be talked about properly because we all owe it so much, really. I mean, Pokemon obviously, in its own sort of place, But Dragon Ball Z, I think, was the first time that, because Pokemon is so Mokoku Seke, if you will, which means stateless in a way. So it's kind of an idea where a lot of Japanese media appears stateless. Dragon Ball Z, you could argue, is certainly that in some respects, but I think it's much more distinctly Japanese than, say, Pokemon is. It is the first time I remember seeing something and not necessarily being like, that's foreign, you know what I mean, as a 12-year-old kid living, it wasn't subtitled when we watched it on Cheese TV. Of course, we all watched it on Cheese TV. It's how we got our start. And for those of you who aren't from Australia or old enough, we've mentioned it many times before, but Cheese TV, of course, is a kids' TV show that was a cartoon show every morning, and it had Sailor Moon, Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z. It opened the gate for so many of us, and just many of us got our first exposure to anime, and then it just went down the Naruto, One Piece, we all went in. That's how we all got in. It was the gateway. But Dragon Ball Z was something very special to all of us. And I remember going to school back in the day, and literally I would have to tape it because I have to leave at the wrong time. So I have to tape it with a VCR. Fuck, show my age.
I was always
Show my
late.
age.
I was late for school because of Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z.
And I also think that in terms of like Pokemon was my technical gateway to anime because it was the first thing I kind of got like obsessed with. But Dragon Ball Z, I think, was maybe a time when I recognized that maybe anime could be, I hadn't quite recognized it was anime yet, of course, because I was 7, I don't know. But I think that it kind of made me go like, this is a little bit more violent, a little bit more edgy, a little bit more of the like shonen tropes that I actually ended up drawing me towards anime in the end. So it was actually more of a gateway in that way for me.
Yeah, 100%.
I kind of recognize the power systems. Not that Pokemon doesn't have a great power system.
course.
It does, but like, we're not having charge ups. We're not having like, the fights that go for 20 years with a timer on the screen. We're not having these outlandish bad guys. But I do remember the Frieza arc was the main.
Classic.
But it's funny because we're talking about Dragon Ball Z, which is later in the series. So really, we came into it late.
This
in
is
that
true.
regard.
This is true.
Really
This is
late.
true.
Really
Yeah, like that's the end, right?
Well, no, there's also GT, which was a
GT.
disaster.
Wasn't
now
GT
Super.
before?
No,
Yeah,
Dragon
Super.
Ball. So
Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball is
Expert.
actually Dragon Ball Z. Technically, is actually the reboot of Dragon Ball, and it covers Akira Toriyama's manga from volumes 16 to 42. So everything before that is Dragon Ball, and I've watched it and I read it, and it's fantastic. But it wasn't really a gateway for us because it wasn't accessible. I think the first time I saw Dragon Ball was on Foxtel, whereas Dragon Ball Z was on free to wear on
Yes.
Choose TV,
Yeah.
and then on Foxtel it would have been on Toonami. But
Yeah.
Dragon Ball wasn't accessible. It wasn't a playable area
No.
when
no.
I was a little. I was a little guy when it was my gateway.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, basically it was essentially a reboot because I think it was the Koyama and Toei Animation sort of took over from a different studio, took over the animation, Koyama took over the writing, and it was basically from the end of Goku is now the world's strongest. He's won the Tenkaichi Budokai. He's beaten all of the villains and of Dragon Ball and turned most of them into friends.
King Piccolo, for example.
And
Yes.
Demon King Piccolo and then Piccolo Jr. So twice, and then there's a 4-year gap or 5-year gap, in fact, where Goku has a kid, and that's where we pick up, and he starts there with the arrival of Goku's brother Raditz on planet Earth.
Yes. Yes.
Funny that it starts like in fatherhood. I feel like that's not usually like a main thing that would kind of. I mean, I guess so. Really, Sam, we came in at Boruto.
Oh,
That's where
you
we're
did?
at
came
in the
at Shippuden.
canon.
No, you came in at Shippuden.
Yes, that's
You
better.
came in
Thank
at
you.
Shippuden.
Yes.
But he didn't have a son. I'm talking like Naruto wasn't a dad.
Oh yeah.
Look, it's interesting. It's interesting you say that because,
Kurama
like,
could be his son. He develops a good relationship with the
How
fox that lives
dare
inside his
you
stomach.
bring up Kurama in front of me? I'm going to cry. How dare you?
I mean, it was, you're right, Charlie. You're completely correct in that it was the first time we really got these anime tropes, because I mean, Pokemon's tropey in its storytelling, but it's not like classic anime tropes necessarily. And many people get confused when we say the big three. Everyone goes, Bleach isn't one of the big three. It's Dragon Ball Z. It's like, no. Dragon Ball Z is the godfather. And we've got a whole episode on this. We've talked about it ad nauseum. But very much this was the progenitor of modern shonen anime and manga. Now, of course, was it the first? No, there's many. We're not going to get into the reads of that. But at the same time, for the West, for what we all saw, unless you were like, older and you were those people like Madman who were like getting VCR tapes sent over from Japan, and then they were like putting, like that was how you were getting anime outside of Cheese TV in Australia in the 90s. Like, and of course we were too young. The internet was only burgeoning. We got into it a bit later. We're talking about a time when the internet wasn't accessible. Not to us anyway. I mean, very few, our cousin had it a bit, but like not really. It was like IRC and all this fucking shit.
Yeah, but the kind of people that had it also had like the water dispensers in their fridge. They're all rich. Like, that's how you know. Like,
It was a rich man's game.
rich man's game for sure.
Still waiting
Your,
for that.
crushed ice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
what?
Literally.
Are you kidding me?
Wow.
I think that another thing that the rumors about Dragon Ball Z when I was young is everyone was
rumors?
the rumors around the schoolyard
It's the
were
word on
like
the street, guys.
it's been heavily edited, and actually the original version is super violent, which is what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
And now looking back, I didn't really research this that much, but knowing full well about how one of my favorite shows, Naruto, One Piece in particular, how that got kind of brought over to Australian free-to-air television is 4Kids did the dubs.
Yes.
And they did things like they made Sanji have a lollipop, and they like the voiceovers, and they made their own theme songs. And hear me out, okay? Dragon Ball Z, I'm not upset that they made an English theme song because it slaps so
It's
hard.
It's sick,
and it's one
dude.
of my favorite
It's a
songs
banger,
to this day.
dude. Dragon.
Rock the Dragon.
Yeah. So
Just
I
the opening riff, all of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
man,
So I-
so
you know, I-
good.
Pre-Falconer as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. But it's part of the Ocean. The first dub is where that song came in, and then Falconer, who I think is famous for the music in Dragon Ball Z, just kind of left it there until the Garlic Saga. So two major sagas, the Saiyan saga and the Frieza saga, or the Namek saga, it was allowed to sit and just become part of the Dragon Ball zeitgeist and part of all our collective memories of what Dragon Ball Z is. And one of my favorite bits about it is that they made the theme song using material from the movies rather than from the series, so that there was no spoilers. And whether that was intentional or not, what it meant was that you, except for the last frame where Goku goes Super Saiyan, you're like, what's that? Why did he go blonde? And we don't find out for 100 episodes what that is. And I think partway through, Trunks arrives as well, and you're like, "Who's the purple-headed kid? He looks cool.
He's cool looking.
He looks
dude.
like me. He looks like like I'd like to look like that one day when I'm a teenager." It's Rock the Dragon,
Man.
And
best.
compared
The
to
best, dude.
the other travesties that 4Kids came out with, so again, One Piece are very much on my mind due to watching the series, but the English 4Kids first song, because the actual theme song for One Piece is really good. It's like da 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 da. It's like really famous song, really fantastic. But the one for fucking 4Kids was like, gotta go, dream it, don't give it up, Luffy. It's like sit so forward. And honestly, it's got like a bunch of raps in it.
Give it up. Here's how the story goes. To find out about treasure. There's no doubt. The pirate whose eye is on it, he'll sing, "I'll be king of the pirates. I'm gonna be king."
Pretty good. And the Naruto one was even more offensive. It was like Sakura, like she's got the nice hair. Like it was honestly like, whoever wrote that had never watched that show in their life. They gave some songwriter like, you wrote a song and just like
We
looked at
also
pictures.
know the answer to what is the best Naruto opening of all time, song-wise. And
Do we?
I'll butcher the Japanese, but Oni, Ona, Arasaro, Oni, Ona,
pretty good.
Asuya, Suya,
Yeah, but you're like,
so fucking
you're
sick,
sleeping
dude.
on Fighting Dreamers.
Fighting Dreamers,
okay.
flow. Fighting Dreamers.
Yeah.
Oh, we're split down the
I'd
middle.
go with yours.
Yeah, dude.
What about
Fighting
Rocks?
We are fighting
Rocks.
dreamers.
So good.
Yeah, but I do think it's down to what you watch first, though. But Dragon Ball Z theme song is iconic and stands alone, and I would listen to it on my Spotify, and I have. So don't
I
worry.
do.
It's
And I
a
love
number
it.
of my playlists. All of them are.
I guess, so the reason we brought Kieran on, not just because he's a good friend, but also because Dragon Ball Z is your thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you love this show. And like, obviously we're all very much dining out on the nostalgia, right? But like, I'd be lying if I said I watched Dragon Ball Z in the last, properly in, 20, 21 years. You know what I
I
mean?
can't even explain
Like-
to you the power system. I'm so far behind.
No,
on
this
it.
is the thing. That's why we've avoided talking about
Ultra
it.
Instinct?
What?
Okay.
Okay, well, there you go.
Isn't it just the hair?
It's the power of hair.
My producer's telling me to stop talking to you, but
Here we got it, guys. We got it.
Turn that light off.
Sorry, just dark.
Sitting in the darkness.
No, but of course the reason we got you on is because we wanted to explain Dragon Ball Z, but like we're going to keep dining out on the nostalgia because it does mean a lot to us, and we'll bring things up and we'll all get like, oh my god, wow, like that. I remember how good, like we just did about the music, and obviously we did a nostalgia episode not long ago, and this is obviously a huge part of it. But why don't you tell us how you came to Dragon Ball Z and what it means to you and why it's stuck with you and why you've gone back and continue to watch it?
That is a big question. I mean, easy answer is that for me, same as everyone else, it was on Cheese TV. It was the last thing that was on that I could watch most of before I had to go to school in the mornings, and it just played such a large part of like our experiences as kids into teenagers and everything. And it honestly played a significant role in me deciding to be a storyteller and that sort of thing, and pursuing that as an adult. Toriyama just opened my eyes to what can be storytelling, how the confines of a world build can be almost infinite, or certainly over 9,000.
Hey,
Nice.
very good segue.
Even
Make a
I
few
got
more of
that.
those.
Hey.
Yeah, but then also as a sports person, as a swimmer, the concept, and I think it shines through in a lot of people in our generation, the idea of like train in Saiyan, and that's the key difference between Goku and Superman, is that Goku is always striving, and Vegeta and Piccolo and Gohan are always striving to be better than they were, to become stronger, to become faster, to become more proficient, and it just so happens that their chosen proficiency is for fighting. And it's lucky that they live in a world where fighting can be your entire purpose, and the only way to save the universe or multiverse nowadays is by fighting. but I think it permeates now. There's a lot of gym culture, and some of it's toxic gym bros and like the whole, again, train and Saiyan thing. But for me, swimming was my thing, and it's a sport where you spend a lot of time in isolation, in the cold and the wet, and it's early, and just thinking, well, Goku could do it. And you just want to continue to strive to be better than you were, and continue to strive to achieve greater heights and bigger goals. You teach yourself to fly using just the energy that permeates out of your own body. It opened up, limitless possibilities for me. And even to the point where I probably took a stack of reputational damage even as a teenager, because I remember vividly, I am the kid in the schoolyard at lunchtime, even in year 12, still trying to do a Kamehameha.
Oh, I'm
Obviously at that point,
I'm
I
still
wasn't
doing that.
expecting a blue energy wave anymore.
Still
But
on
my
game.
cousin and I, shout out Chris, he moved to our school a bit later as well. He came from Sydney over to Western Australia, and he was like, yeah, cool, I'll play. And a bunch of my friends, even up until year 12, would still be like, okay, what moves can you remember the names of? Let's do that at lunch. I'll be throwing final flashes and big bangs. We'd Kamehamehas, Masenkos, the random one that Trunks does once to defeat Frieza, the Makako Senpo, or better known as Special Beam Cannon.
Of course.
All of them.
Spirit
And
Bomb.
we'd just Spirit Bomb, Genki Dama. We'd Kaioken each other. We'd stand there and charge up.
I should have gone to your school.
you should have.
All I was
Yeah.
doing was just Naruto running alone around the oval.
Just ninja running around. You
We didn't
dorks.
need you to run because we could fly. We had instant transmission.
We might have had enemies though, Kieran. We might have been
We
opposite
probably
tastes of it. You
would have
know,
been, yeah.
fuck.
In fact, our early canon was that we were enemies, and then we had an anti-hero journey, and now we're friends.
There you go.
Mhm.
Wait, really? What do you mean?
The first time we met at UDS,
Was I mean or something?
you weren't
University.
mean to me. You were just like, oh, this is because there was relationship drama with friends of ours, and I got caught up in it, and I think I had left a bad impression.
Oh wow. Well, yeah. So this is.
But then we bonded over anime actually.
We
and that's when you're
did.
like,
I was gonna
Kieran's
say-
actually not a bad guy.
The power.
It's funny. I only remember you. So Kieran and I go way, way back. Not that long because we're
2010?
super young. Yeah, at uni. And I think I only remember you because my interactions with you just sending me pictures of Ava models you'd made and stuff like that. So I was like, this guy's the coolest guy ever. I didn't realize that we had some beef.
We had minor beef. Yeah,
Oh,
we did.
no.
We did. But it was good. I was too young and dumb to really appreciate it at the time. But now when I reflect on it, I was like, oh, yeah. I can fully understand why we had a micro beef.
Wow, things you learn about yourself on podcasts. Just invite people on from your past, and you're
Yeah,
like,
that's
"Did we
it.
have beef?" That's my ADHD. I just forgot everything that happened. So I was probably a bit drunk the whole time in 2010. To be fair,
2009, 2010.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we sorted through that.
Absolutely.
Through anime.
We-
See the power.
This is now a fucking therapy session for Kieran and I to
You're totally
unpack our
oblivious as well.
That Ava,
That's so bad.
that Ava cosplay that I made, this is going way off the rails here. I think I still have it, but it was my first crack at cosplaying, and it was made out of Weet-Bix boxes.
Yeah, it was
and
incredible.
it was Evangelion Unit 1's helmet, and painted it purple. It was paper mache. It was it had hardened perfectly,
Holy shit.
and it sat on my head, which was almost an accident because I just made it on a balloon.
Right on.
I remember this. I was hoping you were going to wear it tonight, but that's okay. That would have been really perfect.
We're going to beef again.
Yeah.
You know?
Fuck, we're not going to talk again.
Can we CGI that in? Get Nap in. No, Orange. Studio Orange. They do CGI.
It's brilliant.
But I guess that's all part of the process of being a big old anime fan. Is
Yeah.
and cosplaying Dragon Ball Z is so much easier than
True.
cosplaying Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah. Significantly.
Because you're like, wow, I just push my hair up with glue and then spray blonde through it, and now I'm a Super
I'm
Saiyan.
Super Saiyan.
That's perfect.
Orange jumpsuit, off you go.
Yep.
Exactly.
Rocking, yeah.
Exactly. And now
Rocking
I
it.
buy it anywhere. But,
Oh, yeah.
You ever cosplayed Trunks?
no,
Trunks?
but I've cosplayed Android 17.
Nice.
Ah, yes.
Bit
That's
more
right.
niche.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
For the real
For the
fans.
true fans.
Yeah. None of this novice shit. You know?
This is
Close
basic.
the eyes off to make them look evil as per Toriyama's style.
Mhm.
For a novice like me, can you explain? I know you did briefly. Just like, so Dragon Ball follows Goku. Okay, so
They all follow Goku.
yeah, but him like when he's younger.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how old is he in Dragon Ball?
In wow, this is an interesting thing, and Toriyama does this occasionally. He makes little mistakes. And he admits it in all of his interviews. He goes, yeah, I was just riding by the seat of my pants, and like sometimes I had to retcon things. Sometimes I just forgot that I did a thing and the fans reminded me. But in the premise is that we meet Goku and he's 14 years old, which we learn after the first saga that he's actually 12, and he just didn't know how old he was. He just forgot his age because he'd grown up in the wilderness.
Okay, that's fair.
And
I'll let that
also,
pass.
you know, spoilers, he's crash landed as an alien and adopted in a forest by an old kung fu master. But yeah, he starts at age 12. He meets Bulma immediately, who's 14, and they go on an adventure to find the Dragon Balls, which are the 7 mythical orange orbs, which have stars in them that tell you what number they are. And Goku has the 4th, which is why Bulma has come to him, because she can track them on a radar. And if you find all 7 Dragon Balls, you can summon the Dragon Shenron and have any wish with an asterisk that your heart desires. And so from there, and again, this is Dragon Ball. From there, obviously, lots of other people have coined onto the existence of these orbs. They want them. And also it's a world where there's an evil army who are after the Dragon Balls. There's innumerable magical, but also mecha bad guys. And they just sort of make their way through this world where Goku just happens to have sort of superpowers inexplicably.
Nice.
But then also, I mean, again, that's probably one of the key differences between like Dragon Ball Z and maybe other property that was coming out of Japan at the time, like Power Rangers. Goku doesn't win every single time. And that's one of the main things that Toriyama introduced maybe to the whole shonen genre was the like overpowered, godlike, multi-episode villain arc. So most of the sagas, most of the chapters that make up Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are named after the villain that has to be overcome in order to survive or win.
Yep. Frieza arc, the Cell saga.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Exactly.
That's what, the Boo and Boo as well.
Boo.
Even the filler Garlic Jr. arc, that's its own whole thing.
Does
Vegeta starts out the Saiyan saga.
I was about to say, where's my boy Vegeta at? Because he's my guy.
Best buddy.
He's my guy. Love it.
Piccolo gets 2 bad guy arcs because Piccolo's actually he's 3 different dudes.
Like
technically.
Like how? Sorry, can you
So
explain?
this is technically Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball Z. No, I'm happy to go into it. So Piccolo starts out as one guy. He's the nameless Namek. He's forgotten his own name. He splits. He calls himself Kame when he goes for the position of Guardian of Earth or God of Earth. But he's judged to have too much evil in his soul. Now, one of his abilities as a Namekian, spoiler, is that he can split himself into a good guy and a bad guy. So he essentially filters all of the evil in his body out and gives birth, or in splitting becomes 2 guys, Kame and Piccolo.
Not Kameha?
Comes in a bit later.
Wait, really? Oh, I was doing a bad joke. I was doing a joke, but this is real. Okay, sorry.
This is thousands of years in the past.
Surely.
This is way before Master Roshi comes up with the Kamehameha wave.
Okay, my bad. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
We're going to beef again.
I think there's a slight spelling difference as well if you're going really into the technicality of it, because I think it's KM, it's Kame.
Yeah.
And Kami. Kami and Kame.
Kamek, yeah.
One means turtle, one means God. One means a green dude who lives in a platform and looks down at the planet.
Yep.
Sweet. A turtle god, by the sounds of it.
So Piccolo Senior. That's Piccolo Senior is split off from Kame. Now, they seal Piccolo Senior inside a rice cooker because he's so evil that his only ambition is to take over the world. But in splitting from Kami, he also inherits all of Kami's like strength. So he's overwhelmingly more powerful. They seal him in a rice cooker, but he is accidentally released maybe halfway through Dragon Ball, maybe closer to the end. And he becomes the first like major villain arc. The first really insurmountable villain, because before that you have characters like Tao Po Po, or mercenary Tao who beat Goku, but then within a couple episodes, Goku's found the strength to overcome Tao. So Piccolo's the first one. Piccolo's also the first time we see character deaths in Dragon Ball, which is maybe another recurring, maybe another thing that Toriyama sort of introduced to the genre is like the idea of your main characters can die. They're not safe. George R.R. Martin's famously plagiarized that. Kill your favorites.
Famously, yes.
And so Goku eventually beats Piccolo, but Piccolo in his dying act does something that Namekians can also do, which is they can spit out an egg, which is a perfect clone of themselves with all their power at their best moment, at their prime. And he fires it off out of his mouth across the planet and promises his dying breath is that in 3 years, his child Piccolo Jr. will come and be more powerful and will kill Son Goku and all of his friends and enslave the planet Earth and make it his own. Piccolo Sr. had succeeded actually in capturing the Earth and making it his, or in ruling the Earth, but it only lasted a couple of days before Goku stepped in.
Before he got
and so that brings in the final like arc of Dragon Ball, the Piccolo Jr. saga, which starts with the last Tenkaichi Budokai of Dragon Ball, the one which I think I've already said Goku wins. And so again, spoiler, Goku does beat Piccolo Jr. But it starts one of the first major anti-hero or antagonist to protagonist arcs in the whole series.
Interesting.
Because we have micro ones like Yamcha's a bad guy for a while.
That's right.
Oolong, even Krillin, Tien, big one. But Piccolo is the first really major bad guy.
Yeah.
Anti-hero arc.
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember watching Dragon Ball Evolution, much to my dismay, and being confused because I didn't know Dragon Ball very well and being like, oh, Piccolo's the bad guy in this.
Oh, yeah.
By Spike from Buffy.
Yeah.
James Masters.
James Masters, yeah.
For us as watching Dragon Ball Z, we had no idea, and maybe that made it more riveting for us because there was all this stuff we didn't know.
Yes.
All of that information that we didn't have access to yet, that a Japanese audience would have had. Whereby you're like, why is this green guy like? Why has he got beef with all the dudes on this island?
Yeah.
Like, why is he taking the kid? That sort of thing.
He just takes the kid.
And it comes up a couple times later in Z where it's like, no, I still hate you guys. I'm just working with you because it's convenient for me. So one day I'll take over the world and I'll still be the Demon King Piccolo. But for us, it's totally riveting because you're like, why is Piccolo a bad guy?
Yeah.
Why is he acting like that?
Yeah.
Because we don't have that information. And what do they mean?
unknowns.
Why do they keep calling him Piccolo Jr.? Who's Piccolo Senior?
Yeah. What's he coming into it?
Piccolo
It's-
Senior is my father. Isn't it?
Well, Graeme, I want to bring you into this. So
Please don't. This was riveting.
we'll go back. But I want to know, where did you come across, because obviously we're talking about the Australian experience. Where did you come across Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball in the UK?
So I think I think we spoke about this probably the very first episode that I ever did. So my first experience with Dragon Ball isn't in the UK. It's in Spain.
That's right.
When I was on family holiday, probably Mallorca or somewhere like that, turned on the TV and there was this amazing TV show, bright colors, big buff guys, coolest fights I've ever seen, but it's Spanish. Like the dub was
I
Spanish.
hear it's an amazing dub. I've
It
heard it's,
probably
really
is.
incredible. Yeah.
But my entire thing was that I was like, man, Spanish cartoons slap.
Yeah, of
These
course.
Spaniards, they've got it going
Got it
on.
going on.
And then probably a few years later, that's when Toonami launched, which is probably for the rest of the world knew. Northern Hemisphere Cartoon Network. Toonami was that the cheese TV of everywhere else. And that's when I finally saw the English dub Dragon Ball Z. I was very confused. I was like, oh, they've translated this Spanish cartoon into a English show. This is weird. All right.
Yeah, I'll go
And
with
it probably sat with me for a few years after that as well.
it. Right.
But yeah, Toonami obviously is the big thing.
Yeah.
That's where everything dropped. Late night Toonami was wild as well because that's when all the movies would come on and it was late. So it was like Violence Jack and Ghost in the Shell and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. But I remember being just so enthralled with Dragon Ball Z. And I remember at the time, internet cafes were just becoming a thing. So I used to take the bus into the city, hire whatever it was. I can't remember what it was, like a couple of pounds, you get a few hours. And then just looking at pictures of stuff that I had no context for. So seeing like Super Saiyan 3 with the long hair, and I'm like, what's that? That's wild. And even at this point, probably GT was probably around. So you'd see, you know, S5 with the red, and I was like completely enthralled and enamored in like where this thing could go. And then also seeing weird fan stuff as well, and having no context if that was real or not, or what, you know. So internet cafe, Spanish TV, Toonami.
This is the power of it. This is the power of it. You know what I mean? Like this legitimate transnational power of this show from the 80s by, you know, a guy in Japan, and, you know, Toriyama, who is now one of the godfathers of modern anime. Of course, you know, before him was Tezuka, of course. But it's very interesting that it can have such an insane reach and is really an extraordinary piece of art. Is that why you kept going with it?
Yeah, sorry, absolutely. Yeah, and just the fact that there's still such an active fandom. Every time I'm like, you know, I could maybe this is the part of my life where I don't have Dragon Ball in it for too much, and then suddenly it's like, oh no, it's in my YouTube, it's on my Instagram, it's everywhere. Like, and it's probably my algorithm just knows that I need that fix of like orange and blue jumpsuits and you know, hypercolor purple, blue, yellow, like. But infinitely accessible by the fan base as well, because I think probably, well, I was certainly into coming up with my own iterations of what could be the next Super Saiyan. Like if Frieza can transform, if Cell can transform, then why can't Goku like do like a cool thing where he's like an ape, and then the Super Saiyan 4, Super Saiyan 5 fan art. Like there's so much fan art, and in fact, some of the coolest media that you see or IP out there. Is fan-based.
Yes.
Again, Toriyama's passions, apart from drawing sort of fantasy and aliens, is mecha, and it's a world where there's the super hyper technology of Capsule Corp, where you can make practically anything and fit it inside a capsule that's this big, and you can press the button and throw it, and boom, you got a house. Boom, you got a interstellar spaceship. Like. But then at the same time, you got someone like Goku who's lived for 12 years in the absolute wilderness and has never seen a girl before, which is the plot arc of that first episode. But it just gives you the capacity to do anything.
It does.
And now with the Xenoverse, they can make things like, so the Xenoverse is sort of a in-games, but now super idea that Dragon Ball Z has multiple universes. And I think realistically, the whole Trunks saga introduced that of multiple timelines. But where GT is canonical in one of these spin-off universes. The movies are all canonical in a different spin-off universe. It just makes everything sort of canon, which makes it more fun and more accessible, and gives more options to the fans to be like, no, I actually really did like baby Vegeta, like baby the bad guy Vegeta, not the alternate universe where Vegeta lands on Earth, baby Vegeta, like where he gets infected by a tuffle,
just crazy shit.
Yeah, just crazy shit.
This is crazy shit
because there's infinite possibilities. It's an anime about kung fu because Toriyama was inspired by Sun Wukong, Journey to the West, the Monkey King, Monkey Magic. But also Jackie Chan, but also like drawing robots.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I just stick all these things into one, and I'm really good at writing comedy, Dr. Slump. So why not just keep writing comedy, but put in kung fu?
Yeah.
And that's how it spawned.
Because it's kind of goofy in many respects.
Oh, so goofy.
Especially Dragon Ball.
Yeah, right. Well, I guess this funny thing about it is that it's like, it's both simultaneously insanely earnest, but also doesn't take itself seriously. Kind of does two things simultaneously, And Toriyama, of course, like for those of you who listened to our JRPG episode, also unfortunately, GGEZ, may it rest in peace. That venue is no longer. Very sad. Shout out to Lucky, my good friend. Doing okay, brother. But we obviously interviewed him down there, and again, I was getting into Dragon Ball Z with him back in the day. Obviously, all JRPGs, just sort of inadvertently consuming all this Japanese culture without knowing it was, you said, not really knowing it was Japanese, you know what I mean? Like, which is fascinating. But of course, Toriyama also very famously, one of the most famous video games of all time is called Chrono Trigger. He did the artwork for that, and even more famously, I suppose, and also to show just how much of a creative genius he is, he did the artwork for Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
And Dragon Quest is one of the seminal JRPGs which shaped the whole genre. And of course, like, you can go listen to that episode if you want to hear more about that. I won't get bogged down in it. But the man's a visionary. And it's saying, I mean, like, in many ways is the modern godfather of shonen battle anime, and also the modern godfather of JRPG. I mean, he didn't write Dragon Quest, but still, the aesthetic shape of Dragon Quest. Him.
Sam, would you say that Akira Toriyama is the undisputed king
Oh,
of shonen anime?
Oh, you know what?
bring it back.
You could make a very strong argument that Akira Toriyama is the undisputed king of modern Japanese anime.
I don't think you've said that for a year.
It's been a while.
I know.
It's been a while.
We shat on you way
Kieran's a
too
fan.
much.
It's been a while. So I pulled out an undisputed king.
And this is a valid one.
It's a valid one.
Trust me,
Toriyama's
you've
a
said
good
some-
undisputed
you
king.
said undisputed king about the weirdest shit
Yep.
before, and I've been
Yeah.
like, that doesn't
Yep.
make sense at all.
Well,
but this
that's
one,
debatable. But
makes sense.
this is a fair one. This is a fair one. But I mean, just the sheer creative genius that this man had. And you were saying, so can you explain about his comedy writing a little bit?
It's quite earnest. It's very slapstick. I think, it's been mentioned on the podcast before. A lot of Japanese comedy comes from puns.
Yes.
It's a very earnest language. They don't really have sarcasm, so the comedy has to come through in other ways. In Dragon Ball, it's all through miscommunications that occur and that sort of thing. But yeah, that earnestness and also non sequiturs,
Yes.
character surprises. I mean, it's just peppered throughout.
And what did he write before Dragon Ball? What was his...
Directly before was Dr. Slump.
Yes.
Or Arele, which is about a robot girl and her father, the guy, the professor who makes her, and their adventures. And there's actually there's a crossover chapter or a couple of chapters in the manga and in the anime where Goku goes to Penguin Island where Arale lives.
Wow.
And Dr. Slump's all set there and meets the characters and yeah,
Insane.
have a cute little crossover. But beyond that, I think because he then spent the next 10 years, 1984 to 1995. So 11 years dedicatedly making Dragon Ball purely because the fans were rabid for it.
Yes.
He notes it he does a little, at the start of each manga, he'll do a little how he's going and draw a little caricature of himself, a self-portrait. And, around the Cell Saga, he's starting to say, guys, I'm really tired. The editors are really pushing me.
Guys, I'm
I thought I'd finish this week's this week's drawings, and then I realized I hadn't put the polka dots on Cell yet, and I had to go back and do all the dots.
Oh my god.
Stuff like that.
That's Simpsons quote when Bart has all this like the psychic power, he makes Krusty never stop performing. He's like, just one little boy. Oh, let me stop. That is Toriyama with the fan base.
That is it.
Yeah, it's just incredibly interesting. And I want to go back to something you mentioned before about this idea of the hard work. And it's something we see across shonen anime all over. And it's, the hard worker versus the genius, right? And it's interesting when you mention Superman, because obviously Superman, I think, is much more emblematic of the United States cultural time where it was like, we are just better. We are just great. We are Americans are great. We don't need to even try. We are just by virtue of being American, we're fucking great. And like that was very much, I think, a lot of the subtext of, he's an outsider. I get that, obviously it's not that simplistic, but it is quite different to what the Japanese clearly culturally hold very dear. We can see this in their work culture, where you can see this in all of their cultural products or texts, that hard work is quite possibly the most desirable attribute of a Japanese citizen in many, many ways. And it can be done in a very toxic way. We see this with karoshi, which means to work yourself to death. It's a whole phenomenon amongst businessmen and workers in Japan. But we also see the beauty and incredibleness of it with the extraordinary things that they created. Anyone who's seen Jiro Dreams of Sushi, just the dedication, the extreme dedication to craft and the level. We've just been to Japan, the gardens. The attention to detail in somewhere like Ryoanji or something is just, you just can't even, until you go there and see it, you're like, I can't, oh my God,
generations of people dedicating their lives to maintaining these gardens so they can pass it on to the next, it's almost like we didn't inherit these gardens, we're custodians for the next generation.
It's extraordinary.
We'll be custodians for the next generation after that.
100%. And there's a lot of that in this. And I like the idea that it is that thing of like, you're right. It's not just because Goku is the best.
No.
He works harder than everybody else.
Goku dies a lot.
He dies
and
a lot, dude.
Everyone who's like, and Goku died again. Ha ha ha. He's always working and sometimes he fucks up.
Yeah.
He didn't work hard enough.
That's
makes a mistake.
And obviously there's an element of toxicity there again with it. It's a very complicated. We're not going to dive in much further into that. But
Is he a good father?
That's just about to ask. I was about to ask this.
All right, here we go. Bad anime
Is Goku
dads.
a good father? One of the best. So I in terms of like, I was quickly prefaced by saying I wanted to come to this episode talking about the dub, the Funimation dub, particularly with Christopher Sabat and Sean Semel, and those, that whole team, purely because that was my gateway experience, and I wanted to be able to share that. There is an excellent moment. There's several excellent moments, but in the Cell saga, which is arguably probably Cell and Frieza are the two best.
Yeah, those are my
As long
fondest
as I remember.
memories.
Yeah.
There's a moment where Goku hands the battle. He forfeits the Cell saga because he's like, Gohan's going to do it.
Yes.
Gohan's going to fight him. And we've known throughout all of Dragon Ball Z that Gohan can't just access his power. He needs to feel it. He needs to become enraged because he's not a fighter like his dad. He's a different kind of fighter. His fighting comes out of necessity. His passion is really for the like academics and that sort of thing. And he's also at that stage 11 years old.
Is he 11
He's
in the Cell
Teen
saga?
Gohan. Teen Gohan actually refers to the beginning, the Great Saiyaman Gohan at the beginning of the sort of Buu World Tournament Wizard arc. He's Tween Gohan. He's only 11. He was 4 at the beginning of the Saiyan saga.
Jesus.
Are you winning, son?
Frieza saga takes place a year
Dead
later.
Goku.
And his dad throws him into this battle after being absent for his dad's been there for the first 4 years of his life, then been dead. Then they go to Namek, and his dad decides after Namek to just like stay off world for another year, just for fun. He's
Just
learning the
floating around.
instant transmission among other techniques. So in the Cell saga, they've finally had some time together. They've spent some time in the hyperbolic time chamber and trained for 2 years in 2 days. And Goku puts Gohan forward against this universe or this galaxy crushing entity that is Cell, that's made up of the cells of all of their best friends and worst enemies: Frieza, Vegeta, Goku, Tien, Piccolo, all of them. They're all in Cell. And Gohan, you do it. And Gohan can't do it because he doesn't have a reason to do it. And it's not his thing. He doesn't just want to fight for the sake of it's the Cell games. It's Cell's tournament. It's a game to Cell because he's part Saiyan. It's a game to Goku and Vegeta. But Trunks and Gohan, it's not. It's life and death. You see that a lot in Cell's character arc in the Android saga when he's like, wow, we could just stop this all now. You guys want to fight? You guys want to end the world? But anyway, at this moment. So Goku pushes Gohan forward. He's getting the crap beaten out of him. And Piccolo, and fantastic job by Christopher Sabat because he's playing both Piccolo and Vegeta. And Piccolo, who's become Gohan's sort of like adopted father figure, because spoiler alert, Goku is a bit of a useless father. He has some great moments, but I think, and you see it in the newest movie, the Dragon Ball Superhero, Piccolo's not just the cool uncle. He's kind of like dad too. And Sabat has to argue with Goku and also with himself as Vegeta about why, like, your 11-year-old boy doesn't understand why his father is watching while he gets beaten to death. And just the emotion in that. And it's so raw. It's so real. Watching that as a probably a teenager at that stage, it was groundbreaking because they didn't let us have cartoons like that before that. It was we had to watch Rugrats and Doug and Hey Arnold and
All
Real
excellent.
Monsters, Angry Beavers, Cat Dog. Like, and he was a green alien who had finally come to terms with the fact that he was now a good guy, and he had to fuse with his alter ego who he hated. Because he'd been rejected by the guy thousands of years ago. He finally comes to terms with that, and that he's now going to be like, and he's I'm getting emotional. He's coming to terms with that, and all the gravitas of that wasn't something that we were allowed to have as kids. And here it was, like this guy in a booth, probably looking at a picture of this green alien, being like, and that's my like son figure, my best friend, the person who made me decide to like embrace humanity, Gohan, is being beaten to death because his good-for-nothing father doesn't understand that Gohan doesn't like fighting.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he should like fighting. That's my take of that.
Thanks, Charles.
I'm with Goku.
Yeah.
Go
Should've
on.
done it.
After Cell,
Gotta beat that shit out of him.
I don't want to spoil too much because I know it's like, if this is your gateway, then I don't want to ruin it for you. But Goku then decides to be dead for a lot longer and lets Gohan just like not have a dad.
Yep.
Like
he's a bit of a piece of
Goku
shit.
is so obsessed with fighting and improving himself and bettering himself that he takes every opportunity to be a lousy dad. There are
Poor
times when
Chi-Chi.
he is a brilliant dad. Poor Chi-Chi. Yeah.
Chi-Chi, when I have to
She
come out
went
of the
through hell.
hyperbolic time chamber, I'm like, fuck no.
He's got some real
She's like,
Jing
babe,
For
you're
freak
like
gonna be
2 years
home.
older, like,
Babe, you're gonna be
man.
home for dinner. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry,
Oh,
no,
soz, babe.
no,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go
Yeah.
to outer space for a while.
But yeah, and it touches on why I think, I'll never forget in Naruto, the episode where everything changed for me and when I really got hooked on anime was episode 17 when, and spoilers, when you think Sasuke has died with Haku, the fight in Zabuza, extraordinary arc, and you think he's dead and the Demon Fox seal starts to break and Naruto goes nuts and finally cracks, that famous thing, I'll kill you, or in our sub I had was I'll tear you apart, and literally finally beats Haku and turn, and it's just like, whoa, I remember being like, whoa, this is fucking intense, dude. Like, again, cartoons weren't that for us. So when we grew up, they were kids. I forget, South Park was coming out, but again, comedy. Like, it was all comedy. It was all comedy or kid shows, Simpsons, all that stuff, of course, obsessive, brilliant stuff. But like, I'm sure adult Western animation existed, but like, it just wasn't.
Not in this way though,
No,
and even now,
not in
like
this way,
most
no.
of them are inspired by anime. So you got Avatar. I guess like Clone Wars is something that is kind of
but
that's
that
kind
came
of
later.
it, really, way later.
But yeah, but you're right. It's that exact thing you're talking about, like the really adult, character-driven themes in cartoon form with people, with crazy lights and fucking fighting, and it's just we'd never seen anything like it.
It felt naughty. It felt like we weren't meant to be allowed to watch it.
Yeah.
I think maybe like current pop culture reference, like the Barbie movie starts with like, in the beginning there were only baby dolls, and then Barbie. That was it for us. It was like in the beginning there was only Rugrats. But when you grow up, when you're a kid, you don't want to be a baby anymore. You don't want people to be like, oh, that's a baby kid. So then there was Dragon Ball.
Mhm.
And that's for big kids. It's violent. Yeah, it's violent. In the West, they did cut out a lot of the blood. I mean, there's famously in the Nappa punches Tien so hard. Canonically, a character who's been on par with Goku for a very long time punches Tien in the arm so hard his arm comes off at like mid forearm, and he's pouring blood as you would do. In our version, no blood. It just instantly is seared closed. It's like a lightsaber wound. It's just fine. I mean, he's in an incredible amount of pain and it's still extremely violent. You see this man's arm get punched off. A man who inexplicably you've developed a very strong emotional relationship with, despite only having known him for 2 or 3 episodes at that stage as well.
I remember being upset with that with Tien. Yeah, he was a great character.
He's just so cool. And why's he got 3 eyes?
Looks so cool.
Yeah,
doesn't
why
it?
Is Master Roshi a good guy?
Master Roshi is a good guy.
Yeah.
If I was to say there's a con
sleazy?
of Dragon
He's a
Ball
perv,
Z,
like
is that
Yeah,
Master
he's a
Roshi
perv,
is the like the character that allows Toriyama to make fun of fan service,
Right.
because he's the seedy old man. He's the Ero Sennin in Naruto, but in Dragon Ball form, he's Master Roshi. Yeah, he's constantly. I mean, the whole way that they bring him on board is that they convince Bulma to flash him, and then he's like, "I'll be your master. I'll give you the flying nimbus, and I'll teach you kung fu." Like, But that said, in terms of Dragon Ball Z, really pretty good on like. There's not much fan service.
No.
To be honest,
True, especially for Japan in that time.
kind of leaves it behind in Dragon Ball. There's a little tiny bit in the Buu saga, but that again is more making fun of Master Roshi as the old man who like, oh, I fell into your boobs, like, whoops, and then he does it to Android 18, who just like decimates him with a single punch because she's that much more powerful than he is. Roshi is a good guy. He's
got a good heart.
A hero character. He has a good heart, but not a pure heart.
Good.
I guess he's also a product of his times because he's also hundreds of years old because he has access to the Fountain of Youth, but he just happened to have drunk from it when he was very old.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Which is one of Toriyama's gags.
That's a real bummer, to be honest.
That's funny.
That's
That's
like
really
a fantastic Toriyama bit where he's like, oh yeah, he can live forever, but unfortunately, like,
As a
he's
70-year-old
man.
There's a reverse time.
No,
That is great. Now, who's everyone's favorite character? Who is everyone's favorite Dragon Ball Z character?
Master Roshi. No, sorry. I think I wanted to be Bulma, but I'm but a basic lady. Oh no, because I want to be Bulma because I liked Vegeta, so that makes sense. So I'm gonna go with Bulma, but I also
Great choice, though.
I like Future Trunks because I had a crush on him when I was a kid.
Future Trunks.
Who didn't?
When he arrives in that little crop jacket with the hair, like
It's a hell
stop
of a
it. It's a vibe.
hell of a drip.
It's a vibe.
I used to comb my hair into a middle part to try and look like Future Trunks in high school. Yeah, probably 10 to 12.
How'd you go with it?
It never sat like that. Mine was curly at the time. So it would just like bunch up into little ringlets by about 10 a.m. And so no one got it. No one
Damn
got the
it.
bit I was doing. But, Bulma's an excellent character, though.
There you go.
She's a mastermind. She's a genius. She always comes out like she MacGuffins the cast's way out of so many problems because she's the only one smart enough to do it.
Good character.
Yeah.
Gray?
I always toss up between Vegeta and Frieza.
Oh, Frieza.
Like Frieza, I like because he's just a force of pure evil. Like there's no, it doesn't need a backstory. He is just a force of pure evil. Which, but then Vegeta, you've also got like the layers of him being the prince of the Saiyans and has that I've got to be better than you type of mentality. But yeah, I don't know. Out of those two, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a Vegeta man.
I'm probably leaning to a Vegeta, but
Yeah, me
I
too.
love me some Frieza.
That's a good choice. I'm going Vegeta, basic.
All right, Kieran, this is a big call.
Kieran, this is the big call. This is what
This
that
is-
matters.
For me,
Mr. Popo.
Mr. Popo.
Speaking
There's
of
only a
Popo.
problem in the West. In Japan, they don't mind. Different culture. Who am I to dictate?
Who am I? Who
Who am
we
I?
try not to judge.
You guys had an episode on that.
Yeah, we did.
Probably Icarus. No, Gohan's non-canon dragon friend. No,
Deep cuts.
look,
Let Goten.
I was gonna say I would. Oh God, there's so many to choose from. Now you bring up Goten.
Wait, is
How could I
is
not?
Goten a contender here? Like, it was.
Goten's fantastic because he's like, what if we did Goku again? But he's already Super Saiyan. He's raised by Chi-Chi. He's raised by Chi-Chi and Gohan, so he's already a Super Saiyan by the time we meet him, and he's like 7 years old. And he's just like this happy-go-lucky kind of like dumb kid who just like takes everything at face value. Whereas you have Trunks, like Kid Trunks, as his offsider and best friend, who's like world smart because his dad's the Prince of all Saiyans and his mum's a super genius. So he's just like super sarcastic and like mentally runs rings around Goten, but Goten's so in awe of the whole world that you just forgive him instantly for all of it. Toriyama's really good at creating multi-layered characters straight away. All right, this is a hard one. Probably Vegeta as well.
Yeah.
Maybe Piccolo.
Piccolo was my second choice. for
Piccolo
sure,
senior or junior?
Junior. The junior. I guess
Sorry,
Vegeta. Vegeta's anti-hero arc is like a staple, but probably the best example of Toriyama's like anti-hero arcs, the conversion arcs. Yeah, Vegeta kind of goes through it twice because by the end of the Cell Saga, he's like, okay, now I just have to accept that I'm kind of one of the good guys now. But then it gets revisited in the Buu arc and all of his reasoning is all there and it's just so personal and so gritty. And you see this guy just like, he starts at the bottom, you know? He's born as the Prince of all Saiyans, but he's enslaved. He's in the indentured servant of the man who didn't just kill his dad, like in a really humiliating way, but also his entire species and his planet, his home. All of it is gone. He has no father, he has no mother, he has no people because of Frieza. And Frieza, he's Frieza's dog. He's a lapdog for Frieza. He has no choice. And then he goes to Earth to clean up after Raditz and maybe to get a wish. A low-level Saiyan, one of the 4 survivors, or no, 5 canonically now because Broly's canon, who survived the destruction of planet Vegeta. Toriyama has a fun naming thing as well. We can talk about that a bit later if you want. It's who survived the destruction of Vegeta and the Saiyan people. And he gets beaten down by the lowest ranking caste of Saiyan, which is what Goku is. Goku and Raditz are like the low-level Saiyans, and their power levels are absolutely unremarkable. And yet he gets smacked down. And his sidekick, his only confidant his whole life, who he does pretty dirty to, Nappa, is also just like slapped by Goku. And so from there, it's just like redemption. He gets dynamic. He gets dynamic to try and get the Dragon Balls, and he's experienced a Zenkai boost that Saiyans get when they get beaten to near death. Their power exceeds what it was previously, and he thinks he might be the Super Saiyan. And he's just like he's climbing, he's beating people who normally could beat him, and he's getting better and better and better. And then Goku becomes the Super Saiyan, not him.
Oh.
And then he's like, he has to live on Earth because he has nowhere else to go. His people are gone. He doesn't have a spaceship. He just has to live there because now his only purpose in life is to beat Goku, is to get stronger than Goku. But he can't take over the world until he beats Goku.
Mm.
And Goku doesn't even give him the opportunity to do that because Goku stays off world for such a long time. And then they're thrown into the Cell Saga. And again, like he trains in the hyperbolic time chamber. He's the first one to become Super Saiyan 2. Then Goku and his son Gohan are both stronger. His half Saiyan brat. And so that brings us to the Buu saga, where like the half Saiyan brat beats Cell, not Trunks, not his own son, not Vegeta himself. And all of that pent up, those pent up feelings of inadequacy and always working like to near death and just still not being good enough, of having lost all that and sacrificed so much and still just being like second best, third best, all comes out in the Buu saga, and it's really earned and really justified, and it's one of the best battles of the whole franchise, and it opens him up for his sort of final turning point as well.
It's I mean, it's so deep and layered, and you're obviously, of course, watching Super.
I'm watching right now because I before this I rewatched all 291 episodes, including the filler of Dragon Ball.
Now that's commitment.
It was good fun.
Just for this?
Yeah, just for this.
You
I was like, well,
Respect, brother.
Yeah.
Yes, dude.
Well, I was like, I got to be fresh. I got to know what I'm talking
100%.
about. Like, there's only
I'm all
so
for
much
it.
I'll like remember based on nostalgia and having watched it like here and there. I want it to be really fresh for us.
Oh,
So I
for
watched
sure,
all of
man.
it,
It's
including
fucking
the
brilliant.
filler. And the best filler is Goku and Piccolo learn to drive.
That is good.
Hands down,
That is good.
the Garlic saga as a filler saga, nothing on Goku and Piccolo learning to drive.
That was gold. I love that.
And Super, I haven't gotten around to. Partially because I'm scared.
Yep.
Because once I am up to date with Super, there's nothing left.
This is
Like
true.
the emotional experience that I felt when I finished GT I must have been like 15 or 16. Like I like sheltered. I like went into my room and just hid for like a full day just because I was like letting go of the Dragon Ball world and everything that it had meant to me and all the characters and the significance they had in my life was like hard.
I often sometimes don't even finish the last episodes of things that I really love. Like I actually just don't watch the last episode because I can't bring myself to. I feel like I'm losing, like I'm grieving for something. It's like you get so attached and you're like, this can't be the end.
Yep, I did it with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Never read the last chapter. And that's the reason why I put Super off.
Yep.
Is because I don't know how I'll cope.
For sure.
So I'm watching
Yeah.
the movies, so I'm like up to date. The
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Super movies, I'm up to date, but I haven't watched the Tournament of Power arc or the Black Goku, Black Frieza. Like I don't know what they're all about because they're not in the movies. I will get around to them. In fact, we could do a whole podcast on that.
On Super, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Mm.
Well, I guess it's so special too because it's like, it's one of those things, a bit like, Ross Chisari, who we had on, of course, with Pokemon, who's just been there since day one and is just on the train, you know what I mean? Like, and will not stop until it ends, and it won't. So it's like, that's wonderful. That's a good thing about Pokemon, I suppose. It'll forever continue. But, good or bad things, depending on how you want to look at it. But the fact that it has been something that has stuck with you for so long, and you can hear the passion in your voice when you speak about it, and it's really special. And also, even for us, even though we're not still watching it, what it's done for all of us has given us something that's so special. I mean, we're actually on a fucking anime podcast, right? We love this shit.
Yeah.
We love it so much, and sometimes we often sort of forget that, you know what I mean? It's like anime is something that really legitimately, honestly changed my life and all of us here, right? It's something that we identify with. We're part of a fandom, and Dragon Ball is one of the major reasons that we all got into this. And it's something that should be admired. and respected. And thank you for bringing that level of respect and passion to it, because honestly, it's, you know, this whole genre medium is just something which, you know, I will be watching till the day I fucking die. You know what I mean? It's the thing I still watch the most. Obviously, I'm still watching, you know, I'm watching a show about a cat an anthropomorphic cat that cooks dinner. And I love it. You know,
It's peak.
it's peak.
It's peak
Thank you,
content.
Graeme. It's peak. Undisputed king of this season. But it's,
2 in 1 episode is that's mate,
it's Graeme out of control.
cross the line.
But yeah, Sam, he's lost it. But yeah.
That's Sam saying too.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the power.
Sam saying.
That's our
Sam
power.
saying
Fucking.
They really achieved Saiyan 3.
Yeah.
It'll happen one day. But no, Kieran, thank you so much for coming on, mate. I really
welcome.
appreciate it. It's been a long time coming, and thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I again have been listening to this since the beginning, and it's just really great to finally be on. And I brought you some gifts.
Gifts
from Japan.
Ooh.
Oh my God. We got Japan gifts, people.
Wow.
I got some gacha.
Oh,
So I'll
hell
let you lucky
yes. Lucky
I'm
dip
going
gacha.
to-
I went into the specific gachas and was like, I'll get something for that I've heard that Sam, Graeme, and Charlotte like.
Go.
But then I was like, I'll let them
Lucky dip it.
lucky dip it instead.
This has been
that way they might
This
not get
has
the right
been
thing.
the best fucking episode.
I know. I learned something.
I didn't have to say a thing. I get a
We
prize.
got gacha. So for those of you who aren't watching the YouTube
Oh,
video,
give it, open them.
we're going to get these open.
So this is Piccolo Jr. by the way.
Hey!
This is when he's just born, but by the age of 4, he looks like the Piccolo that we all know and love. So he's actually only
That's
4 years older than Gohan.
That's very cute. What are you guys?
He's the little guy.
Are you still going off this?
It's so hard to open. It was like,
While you guys open those, I'll rattle off some fun facts
Hey.
about Dragon Ball Z. Toriyama has a fun naming thing that he does.
my guy,
So,
pig.
I'll leave it as homework for all the listeners and viewers. But Toriyama names all his characters in like a pattern. So all the Saiyans are named after vegetables.
You got-
Earthlings are named after food. Namekians are named after instruments. Some of them, not all of them. All of Frieza's family. Yeah, let's have a look.
Sorry, I got.
You get the Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah. That's so
Yu
good.
Yu Hakusho.
Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yes. God, it's been so long.
So yeah, there's a whole like non-canon Dragon Ball universe that exists that's very much within the zeitgeist.
It's crazy.
And contains characters like Broly, Lord Slug, Cooler, Frieza's brother.
Oh yeah.
Characters like that.
Freezer and Cooler.
Who'd have thought?
And King Cold.
And King Cold, yeah. Again, naming
King
the way he
Cold.
names the characters.
Yeah.
It's not
Yu Yu
Man,
Hakusho,
love
love it.
refrigerators.
yeah.
So good.
All the Saiyans, Nappa, Vegeta, Prince Vegeta of the Saiyans. In Japanese, the word Saiyan is a breakdown of yasai, which means vegetable.
Kakarot. Kakarot.
Raditz.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Raditz all there.
I always
Oh,
really
yeah.
wanted to see.
There's a
Toriyama, you
cabbage.
duck.
You.
Hey, slide
undisputed-
out.
If you
King
look, it's
of
there.
nature.
If you look for it, you can find it.
You will find it.
I always did want to see Nappa go Super Saiyan and just see a blonde mustache. just coming off.
That's it.
No
And that's
hair,
the
like-
fan art of like Raditz as a Super Saiyan 3.
Yeah, of course.
Where like his hair, which is
Oh, I've
already
seen
thigh
those,
length,
yeah.
goes double thigh length, and he just like steps on it a bunch.
Love it.
Like,
No, but of course, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And if you're a big Dragon Ball fan, here's a little trip down memory lane. If you haven't watched it, it still has staying power to this day and is such a vital part of Western anime fandom. So you guys.
No, I was just going to say, I'm so glad that Kieran put our differences, we put it behind us.
air them for everyone, but also put them
have
behind
no
us.
recollection. I'm looking forward to being like, what did we fight about? Oh, that's right. Oh,
There you go. We got a whole new
that's
podcast
so
after
good.
this. For those of you who join our
Relationships.
Patreon, you will hear
Patreon, the history
get
of Charlie and Kieran's friendship.
which
Through
means
the
nothing
years.
to anyone.
Our tournament arc.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming
No,
on.
you're
though.
welcome.
Indeed. Now, of course, if you like what we're doing, you can find us on Instagram. You can also find us on YouTube, which you're hopefully watching on. And of course, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of the good ones. And of course, if you really like what we're doing, you can check us out on Patreon. Obviously, we're a small little operation and, we work hard on this and every little bit helps. So look, and we're going to be doing a lot more content over there these days. Lots of BTS, lots more Graeme and I are going to be getting together and talking about what we're watching every week.
What
little
you're
things
watching, what you're
that,
reading.
What we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I'm playing no, I'm spoiling it. This is for the Patreons.
Yeah.
So you'll get that if you join Patreon. And access to our Discord server where we do hang out and talk about a lot of stuff. And you want to hear some hot takes about anime that's not getting on the podcast?
Or
the Discord's a place
personal
to be.
relationships.
Yeah, well, indeed, personal relationship drama.
It was a long time ago.
It's a long time ago. I tell
Years
you.
ago.
Grown up.
Fine.
But no, Kieran, thank you so much, my man.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah.
Pleasure.
And
Thank
if
you
you're
for
not,
the gifts.
if the fans aren't after a whole 293 eps, the Kai exists, Dragon Ball Kai, which is the abridged, the official abridged. It's closer to Toriyama's, published material, less filler.
Right on. Dragon Ball
But
Kai.
we miss them learning how to drive, so I'm not interested.
You do, so don't bother. It's not worth it.
Yes, no, forget it.
What,
It's for the
161
normies, man.
episodes? No,
it's child's play.
293. Goku and Piccolo learn to drive.
Yeah. If you want to skip, straight to it. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll catch you next time. All the best.
Thanks.